Call the Wednesday, this is the Wednesday, January 10th, 2024 meeting of the Fire Station Building Committee. We are meeting via in room 120 of Town Hall, as well as remote by Zoom. I'll take roll call attendance as we do have at least one member who's remote. Aaron Hunt.
Aaron, if you're there, you're muted.
Yeah, Aaron, you're muted if you're there. We'll come back to Aaron. Chief Kenny.
Present.
Justin Casanova Davis.
Here.
Yeah, Aaron Hunt said yes. Right. Aaron Hunt.
Here.
Chris Baker. Kevin Champagne here. All right. First agenda item is public comment. One other than Andy, right?
Nope.
Okay. Look like we have any public comment, so we'll move right into discussion items. So Steve, you're up. Vertex OPM report.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. So the OPM report for the Norfolk Fire Station project for tonight's committee meeting. Start off with a progress report since our last meeting, which was on December 20th. The Mason has demobilized for a time period until some of the rough-ins are complete, plumbing rough-ins in the chases, and then they'll come back and they'll finish up some of the interior walls. Installation of electrical rough-ins have been ongoing throughout the building. Plumbing, trench drains in the apparatus bay are being installed. Fire protection and ductwork rough-ins have started. First section of the app bay slab has been poured, and they're planning on the second section for this Friday, which will complete the first floor level. Installation of training stair number 2, which is on the church side of the building, that has started. Light gauge metal framing is continued on the second floor interior and in the training room. Steel decking was installed on the light gauge metal roof trusses on the training room. Exterior dense deck sheathing has been ongoing. Exterior air vapor barrier is ongoing. Sloped and low slope roofing has continued. Window installation has started. We have continued to review and install components on the mock-up panel, and temporary heating has been ongoing as our temperatures are obviously below freezing and needed for masonry and certain other tasks that are ongoing. Photo documentation. First photo is simply the photo of the front elevation of the mock-up panel, which has the painting and the siding and trim. We'll talk a little bit more about that under the action items. But a majority of you were able to come out to the site last week and view the shingles in comparison to the finished paint color. Next photo, which is beginning of the month. This is the inside of the training room, showing the light gauge metal roof trusses and the steel decking. The next photo is installation of electrical panels on the second floor. This is in the mechanical room area. Next photo is a photo of installation of the windows and the peel and stick vapor barrier that is that's the blue material surrounding the edge of the window frame. Next photo from the third, just showing the sloped roof underlayment. It's been installed, and then the underlayment is here. There's sort of the brown paper looking area, and the edges have the ice and water barrier. Next photo is also from the third. It's view of the east elevation, showing the training room. There's your light gauge metal trusses and your steel deck, and they've started to apply the plywood to the exterior walls, and then the two-story section of the east side of fire station is behind. Next photo is installation of train stair number 2. This is all galvanized. This will be the training stair that firefighters will be able to perform training tasks in, and it will be a wet area, so all this steel has been galvanized. And here's a second photo of it as it goes up to the second floor. This landing right here is a mid landing that goes to the small training platform adjacent to the mechanical room. Next photo is worker applying the spray fluid applied air and vapor barrier over the sheathing at the south elevation, which is at the rear of the building. Next photo is last Friday. This is the last section of the apparatus bay, showing the trench drains installed and the vapor barrier for the slab prep. As of today, they've got the reinforcing bar installed. The inspection by Yankee will be tomorrow. And like I said, they're planning on pouring this coming Friday. Next photo is a view of the front elevation progress as of the 5th. Any questions on progress to date before I start to look ahead?
I don't have anyone on the Zoom call have questions, Aaron or Todd?
Not at the moment.
Good,
Look
Steve.
at schedule. They'll be completing the masonry chase walls once the rough-in plumbings are done and inspected. Again, continue with the roofing, specifically the asphalt shingles, based on our final approval tonight. Completing the first floor app bay slab pours, like I mentioned, that's planned for Friday. To continue the light gauge metal framing and door frames on the second floor. Continue the fluid applied and the peel and stick membrane air vapor barrier on the exterior. They actually have started installing some of the clips that will be used for the installation of the rigid insulation, and then siding and trim on the walls. Going to continue with fire protection rough-ins, continue plumbing rough-ins, including the trench drains, continue electrical rough-ins, continue installation of ductwork, continue to install windows, and then complete the installation of the training stair number 2. Construction project, other issues, Castagna, right now, application number 10 has been submitted. They are running approximately 41% complete through the end of December. There will be a discussion on the PV panel system, which will be after my OPM report with Ron and Vision. Schedule right now, there's still no change in schedule. CFO and FF&E planned for the end of June with the movement in July, and then final completion in November. Long lead items. We're expecting to get the generator delivery within the next couple of weeks. This was at one time much farther out. Air handling unit number 2 has been delivered to the HVAC contractor, and air handling unit 1 and 3 are still a May delivery. One item that came up today was trying to nail down the storefront delivery and lead time for the exterior doors. Update on owner purchases and off the state bid list. The station alerting system, the Zetron system, we've talked extensively about. We did have a meeting on site. Actually, I should say 1-5 because it was Friday. And a building walkthrough with Allcom. There were quite a few reductions of equipment that we were able to implement, including 13 ceiling speakers. We deleted 4 22 by 4 inch monitors. We deleted a rack because you'll be able to use space in the rack that's being supplied either by the town, from the town hall, or from the electrical contractor. We were hoping to have a revised number tonight. We've sort of been chasing him. Did place a call into the rep just before the meeting. Did not get in touch, but we believe we had some significant reduction in the numbers. Probably not getting down as far as our 50,000, but a lot better than the 136 that we were at. FF&E furniture. We had a discussion today a little bit on the furniture. We're trying to nail down the pricing, but everything is going well with that. After my presentation here, I do have a short virtual presentation that the furniture vendor provided. That's sort of a virtual walk through the building that I thought that would be interesting, and it doesn't take that long. Any questions on the issues that I just brought up before we go into the changes?
None from here. Todd or Aaron, any questions?
All good at the moment.
Okay, great. So we do have, we're putting together a change order to be issued to Castagna for a number of PCOs that we've been working on with them since change order 2. Right now, the change order is totaling $13,408.99. It consists of PCO 18R, which was to add a louver for exhaust fan number 4, and simply because the louver itself was not on the drawings, and it needed a louver to perform properly. The ductwork is there, the fan is there, so that's just for the louver, and we did have that reviewed by GDD. PCO 26. This is to add exterior column covers on the outside wall of the mainly the masonry, in order to provide a flat surface for the ABB to be sprayed onto. There were a number of areas that the column covers were shown on the drawings, but there were some areas that it did not. So that PCO from the Miss Metals contractor was $7,140.35. We did review it and vet it out. PCO 27. This is in conjunction with PR 22, which was a revision to the permit office to add a door and wall as requested by the fire department. Essentially extended the size of the permit room into a section of what was a hallway, and that was $1,758.76. PCO 28 was with proposal request number 17. It was for electrical revision to the air handling unit 1 and 3. The approved air handling units varied slightly from the basis of design units, so there was some changes in the power requirements as far as disconnects and circuit breakers. And interesting enough, some of the components, the materials went up, and they were an add, but there was labor that came back as a credit. So this was overall credit of $644.91. PCO 29 goes with proposal request 28 to add an outlet for a lighted display case, the Petrotech display case that's in the fire department now, and an outlet over the front training deck as requested by the fire department. The total on that was $1,715.11. PCO 12, excuse me, that should say 30. PCO 30, that's to revise the glazing light layout in the overhead doors to meet the impact testing. We discussed that at the last committee meeting, in particular the layout that everybody felt comfortable with, but was also able to meet the impact testing requirements. So there was an upcharge for that of $4,258.60. And then the last thing is every couple of change orders, we've been monitoring the power used by the contractor that's tied into the existing fire station. So this spans from the end of September to the end of December for an amount of $1,940.80. Any questions on any of those individual PCOs?
So, yeah, before I kind of open it up, if anybody has questions. So we're not asking for a vote on this, correct? This will just be submitted as a, pending any questions that get brought up tonight, this will be compiled into a change order that's sent to Justin and I. for
Correct.
signature.
Yeah, Ron will draft it up if he hasn't already, and then it'll go to Dawn Whitty will sign it. Will go to the Castagna, who's already on board with these, and they'll sign, and then we'll send it back to you, Kevin, and Justin for final signature.
Does anybody have any questions on any of the change orders?
No question.
So just for PCO, it's labeled number 12, but it's actually number 30. So that's the glass layout that we looked at last meeting, correct?
Correct.
And so what was the justification of the added cost? I thought we balanced out the glazing. Was there a net add in the glazing?
Yes. Yeah. We if you recall, we added glazing to the overhead doors on the front of the building, and then reduced them on the two in the back. But it wasn't an equal trade. But there was an aesthetic value to it.
Yeah, I'm assuming there was some pushback on the vendor that they said that they could meet a design and then couldn't. What sort of conversation was had there?
Well, there's going to be another conversation in regard to with Clopay on these doors. I don't know, Ron, if you want to jump in on your thoughts on this.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so when we met with them, we basically told them, hey, you told us you could do this, and they said, well, technically we didn't. We told you we could do something similar, right? So you look back at all the documentation, and, to me, and I think we might have talked about this last time we met, but, to me, this is just salesman and the company saying, yeah, we can do it. Now, remember that we were sharing with them the specific design and the requirements for the doors. Talking to said they could not do it. So this company was saying, yeah, we can, do that. Now they said they could do something similar. We interpreted that to mean they could do what we. But regardless, they don't have a door that meets it. And so, for us to get this straight, we came up with a different design, right? Because we showed you what their design would have been.
Yeah.
And so after all that, the big question was, all right, well, how much is it going to be? So we got it down as low as we could get it. And as Steve said, we are going to have another meeting with them. Jeff is setting up another meeting. Because as far as I'm concerned, we should be getting better glass than what we're getting. So we're still trying to get them essentially to pony up to some of this stuff. It is significantly more glass, right? So I mean, by significant, I mean the front of the building has a different look to it than what the original design was. So that's where we landed on that.
Okay, so this the 4,258.60 may go down from this follow-up conversation, or is this kind of the upset limit and there's further conversation with them before change order number 3 gets finalized, or is?
No, that's the number for the doors, so they're gonna go ahead and
Okay.
put the order in.
Yeah.
Our request is that, but the new energy code changed in Massachusetts, right? We all know that. And so they have to provide doors in the future that have better performing glass, right? To meet the new energy code. Not, our building doesn't fall under the new energy code, but they do have to come up with that in the future. So our request to them is, great, Norfolk will be your first one, right? We're paying you a little bit extra for the glass. Once you have all the glass tested so it meets a better energy code, come out and swap the glass out. So that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to get a kind of a win-win here where they can use Norfolk as a demonstration building for the first building in Massachusetts that meets the new energy code because of the glass. And at the same time, you paid a little extra, so maybe we'll get a little extra energy performance. That's the goal.
Okay.
I don't think this cost is gonna go down any. It's just a matter of what else can we get them to do for that cost.
Sure. Yeah. Any other questions from anyone on change order 3? See Todd shaking his head, so I think we're good, Steve.
Okay, just an update. I mean, we've had 3 change orders. I'm just sort of showing our construction contingency that's left based solely on what we've issued as change orders, and it is still healthy at $890,000. And again, I showed this last time. It's a little hard to see because of the size of it. But this is my PCO proposed change order log showing what's been submitted to date, and then a number of things that we're anticipating, and even with putting rough numbers to some items that haven't been submitted yet. We're still at a remaining contingency at the as we speak today, as a worst case of $852,000. So we're, like I said, we're in good shape on our construction contingency line item. And if there's no more questions on that, I'll try and jump into this short video on that one of the furniture vendors did.
Steve, I wonder, is it okay if we go right into solar? Because Jen's on the call and, I know that Peter's on the call, and I'm sure that they're on the call for the solar stuff, not for fancy desks.
Okay, I'll stop sharing so you can jump on.
Okay.
With whatever you need to do.
I'll just introduce Jen. Jen has worked with me on another project, putting together a very similar proposal to what she's putting together for you, although albeit that project is much larger. And I think if she runs through this quickly with you, you'll see the pros and cons, most so on the pros, of what she can do from a solar perspective. Jen is with a company called Revision Energy. They do a lot of public work. They do this through Chapter 149. They do it through Chapter 25A procurement. So there's a couple of different ways they could do this. And so, Jen, I'll let you take it from there. I think you're on mute.
Everyone.
Oh, there you go.
Nope. I was trying to figure out how to share my screen and ran into some problems. But yes, thank you all for having me. I'm Jen Stevenson, Sabetta, she, her with Revision. Thanks for the intro, Ron. I'm going to try and share my screen, but it might, before I do so, it might blow up the way that I can see you. So I might not be able to see you, and just interrupt me as questions arise. I did prepare some slides just to kind of go through what I thought were the highlights, but you can feel free to interrupt at any point. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
This is going to feel weird not being able to see you, but we'll give it a whirl.
Jen, you obviously have the building committee here and on Zoom. We also have the chair of our energy committee in town,
Okay.
Andy Bakanowski. So he may have some questions as well.
Great. Great to meet you, Andy. All right, let's see if I can do this share. if I do that and I do this. Okay, you can see my screen?
Yes.
All right, cool. So I'm Jen, I'm with Revision. This is our mascot Sun Squatch, who was created to kind of instill hope about the climate situation that we find ourselves in. And I wanted to start off just by giving you a little bit of background about Revision. We're a 20-year-old solar installer. We have offices in Maine, which is where we were founded, New Hampshire and Massachusetts. We've actually built over 17,000 systems since inception. And 2 points that I will just tell you about that I think are cool is that we're a B Corp, which means that we have a social mission. In addition, as opposed to like a for-profit company, we are for-profit, but we have a social mission that is the priority, and that is to make life better by building our just and equitable electric future. The other point that I love to highlight is that we are 100% employee owned. And the reason I like to bring this up is because we're all co-owners of this company. We all have a stake in the success and reputation of the work we do. So I think that goes a long ways in making sure that we do right by ourselves, each other, and our clients. And it's pretty evident from the reviews I see on a weekly basis from the work that we do and have done. So I didn't really know the implications of that when I started here, but I'm very excited to have learned what it means. Okay, next slide. I think probably everyone in the room knows that we're talking about solar here today. Solar panels are obviously the star. They create direct current energy. They send it to the inverters that convert it to what we're using in our homes and businesses, alternating current. The reason I mention it is because I didn't know if you all are familiar with the function of net metering. I can pause and define it, or if it's good to keep going, I can do so.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe just a quick explanation. It'd be great.
Great, sure, happy to. I just didn't want to go over anything if you already knew it. So in this image, this is kind of just a stock image that we have that shows sunlight hits the panels, it goes down conduit to the inverter, and it goes to the home or building in alternating current, which is what we're using there. Any excess solar that is any excess electricity that is generated that the building doesn't consume can be sold back to the utility through a function called net metering. It's available in Massachusetts, and you get paid a certain rate for that excess energy sold. That's kind of the simplifying definition of net metering. So it's another way to help pay for an investment should it come into play. Of course, there's lots of other equipment that I'm not mentioning here, so you can ask questions, but those are the highlights. I did want to talk about public safety projects we've done. We have a lot of experience building arrays for fire departments, police stations, roof mounted, on pitched roofs, on flat roofs. We have done it all. This one in the top left, if you can see my cursor, I'm not sure, is actually the Boston Police Department, where we did a parking array for them. So we do it all in-house. And if we do sub out work, we always have a PM on site overseeing what's being done to make sure it's up to our standards. And this is just some photos of the team in action that I wanted to include. So here's what I have as a preliminary design for y'all. It's a 40 kilowatt system that would produce about 49,000 kilowatt hours annually with 84 panels. So it's using a ballasted array, which if you see in the bottom right here, this is an example of a ballasted array. The top right here is an example of a ballasted array. We're using weights to hold those panels down, and that means the benefit is that there are no roof penetrations. If you are concerned, for example, about like your roof warranty, we always get the roofer to come and inspect the roof pre-installation and then post-install to make sure that your warranty is still in place. I know that that's something that people are sensitive about, especially when you have a nice brand new roof. So these 49,000 kilowatt hours produce, ballpark, around 17 to 20% of what the building is projected to consume, which is great. We do recommend going with the flat roof in this instance. I did look at ground mount opportunities, but those are typically more expensive, and this is the most cost-effective option that we came up with. In terms of warranties, we expect the panels are warranted for 25 years. The inverters, we do expect to replace about halfway through the warranty of the panels every 12 years or so, 12 to 15 years. And we can expect to see those panels systems last 30 to 40. Before I move on, are there any questions that anyone has?
Is there any, I guess you mentioned that there's a more significant cost to ground mounted solar, possibly solar canopies. And I think that there's some challenges in town with zoning bylaws as to what would be allowed, but just curious if you've looked at all what could possibly be installed on the site and how effective it might be.
Yes. So to address the difference between ground mounts and canopies, canopies we're typically seeing come in around double the price of roof mounted, just because of that extra steel. Ground mounted is a little bit more cost effective, but I recognize that this is Main Street. So I didn't know how you all felt about that. To the east over here, along the parking lot, it didn't look like there was enough space. There was not enough space. We have to put fencing around our ground mounted arrays, and that fencing then has a 15-foot setback. So based on the way I saw the parking lot on the elevation, not the elevation, the rendering I was looking at, there was not enough room to put ground mount. So I did look at the west. You could fit some, not a lot, and I could get back to you with specific numbers if that was something that folks had interest in. But again, those setbacks from the roofing, from the fencing still come into play, which does minimize the amount that you can fit there.
Some questions on the slide.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I was just asking if anybody else had questions on the slide, so I think
Oh,
you're good to
yep.
keep going.
Cool. I did want to take a minute to give a shout out to our service team. We offer an operation and maintenance package. It's in the preliminary numbers that I shared with you all previously. I like to call it the mom package because I think the monitoring is kind of the star of the show. And I always recommend this package to clients, because if you're investing money in a system that is just sophisticated, you want to make sure it's operating as well as it should be. So our maintenance packages include weekly monitoring remotely. The image on the left is just kind of one of the graphs you can see when you log into your system to see how it's been producing. So they're doing that weekly. If they're noticing any issues, they are troubleshooting remotely, and if they can't solve it remotely, then they are going out on site to solve the problem. I think one of the benefits of having the operation and maintenance package is that you're kind of prioritizing top of the queue in terms of who gets their service call first. And then the last point about the O&M package is that it's a 6-year package. You can renew every 6 years. And every 3rd year includes a major on-site site inspection where they're coming out to look around. I don't think this is standard with a lot of companies, so I like to give it its own slide. Any questions there? Not seeing any. We can go back anyway. I didn't know if you wanted to talk financials. Is that appropriate to move forward? I didn't know. We can go over the options or the specifics, whatever you want.
Yeah, I think if we can understand it, maybe at a high level, what the differences between these options are.
Absolutely. So cash purchase, we call it turnkey here. Cash is king. It is the most straightforward cost-effective option, so that should come as no surprise. We do believe that people get the maximum benefits from their arrays when they do own it. So loan is still ownership of the system, but you have financed it through a lending institution. Those numbers have, if you were thinking of paying for this with a loan, I'm happy to get those loan terms from you and model them in to the financials for you. But the loans still have the same benefits of ownership. They just have, you know, whatever interest rate you're paying on that loan. And then the last option is called a power purchase agreement, or PPA. Power purchase agreements are a wonderful way for people who have a cash flow issue to still get solar. They do not own the solar. They put zero money down, and then someone else comes in, builds the array, owns it, is responsible for the operation and maintenance of that array. And the person who allowed the array to be built on their land or building gets to buy the electricity that that array produces at a lower rate than the utility rate that they currently pay. That was very wordy, I'm sorry. But in this situation, I just wanted to be upfront with you, because we're bringing in our impact investors in these things. It's another cook in the kitchen. So typically for a PPA to pencil out for us, we need a minimum of 100 kilowatt projects, and you're a little bit under half. So we're short there, which really just means your rate would go up. It's not a great situation for you if we were to explore PPA for just this building. However, if you had other buildings in town that you were looking to solarize, we could bundle them into one so that we could get to that threshold if that was of interest. I didn't want to just assume that you weren't interested in that option. And a quick look at some of the municipal buildings that I could just Google. It looked like you have maybe like a water department where the DPU is. That looks like it might have a newish roof. And then I think it was called like the Freeman School that had a decent sized roof. It looked like they already had a little solar, but lots of other roofs that might be good for solar. So just throwing those out as ideas in case you all talk that over later. Any questions on these three options? Actually,
oh,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say our PPAs, our power purchase agreements, do come with an option to buy out the array. It's typically in year 6 after the investor's tax appetite has been satisfied, but we can do it in different years. As long as it's longer than 6 years, we can arrange for buyout options.
Do you have any, I mean, we're not gonna be able to make a decision tonight, obviously, but do you have any information on what kind of the cost of the system that you showed
I do.
would be?
And I just want to throw in there that this is all, like, this is the preliminary. I didn't realize my camera wasn't on.
Yep.
This is all preliminary, meaning Jen has kind of like put all this together in a bubble, I'll say, because I'm the only one she's been speaking to. But if you have any interest in this whatsoever, I would fully expect Todd and Justin and you, Kevin, and others to get into the conversation, talk about possibilities. And that's where things can start to get fine tuned, right? Even to the point where if you wanted to do an RFP to get proposals, or if you just want to go with Revision Energy, we would ask them to actually come out to the site, measure the roof, like see what's actually there, because all of this again is just put together based on the contract documents. So this is the big brush you asked for, right? There'd be a whole nother step of like engaging Revision Energy and having them do some more fine tuning, which will affect the amount of power they can get on the roof and will affect what Jen talked about, maybe bundling a couple of buildings, and would also affect the costs and everything else. So sorry to jump in there. I just want to let you know. You don't have to make any decisions today.
Yeah, that's a good clarification, Ron. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for highlighting. This is preliminary. This is my first brush. Our engineers really get in there to the nitty gritty. In terms, like I have a slide, though I think it's my last slide on next steps. And so the next steps would be measuring the roof, getting the electrical diagrams. If the electrical work hasn't been installed yet, getting the one-line diagrams of that so we can really do it for contract pricing. in more detail, basically. So this is first blush for sure. And at first blush, it looks like we could do around 40 kilowatts for $164,000. Those allowances that you're seeing are included in that turnkey price, and the O&M cost is not. It's a separate contract. As I mentioned, you would renew it every 6 years if you are interested in continuing that contract. The direct pay is basically the counterpart that the federal government created out of the Inflation Reduction Act to true up what for-profit companies have been taking advantage of for years, that 30% investment tax credit. So now 30% of the project is now reimbursable to non-tax paying entities such as the town. So that's great. That takes a chunk out of what you would owe. In PPAs, that is not applicable because the non-tax paying entity, in this case you all, would not be owning the project. So there's some nuance there, but yeah, over the 40-year expected lifespan of these panels, you would be saving $250,000, which is pretty impressive. Even the lifetime of the warranty is $173,000. So I don't know what specific questions I can tackle for you on this. It's got a payback of about 10 years. And again, this is without any loan financing modeled in. So this is just the turnkey pricing.
So basically, again, high level
High level.
for a 49,000 kilowatt hour system, you'd be talking about $116,000 after all credit. And
You got it.
and does that include? That doesn't. Average O&M. So that does include like an operation and maintenance
So
plan.
this number does include the O&M. This number, the turnkey system price, does not include the O&M because we feel like it's better to exclude it from that price tag. But the O&M is factored in
In
here.
that bottom line number.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And I guess one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't say is that whenever I do a first pass prelim for folks, it is more conservative. I'd rather start high and get you something more concrete that's more favorable. So generally these first numbers you're seeing are going to be the most conservative ones you see.
And excuse me if this is kind of a basic question, but the panels that you're using to come up with these numbers,
Mhm.
I mean, are there different grades of panels? Are some more efficient than others? Or are you
Yeah.
picking kind of mid-grade one, or what is this based on?
Yes, thank you for asking this question. We use tier 1 panels. So the panels that I have modeled in for this array are 400, I'm trying to see if I have a photo of them. 485 watts per panel. I guess I don't have a photo, I'm sorry. Where was that slide? Here we go. We use tier 1 products because they are tried and true, they're top of the line. Revision Energy is a founding member of the Amicus Solar Cooperative, which is basically a buying cooperative of, I think it's 80 member companies across the country. You have to meet some type of like, we're good people type metrics to join Amicus. And that allows us to have purchasing power in our components, which helps us get more favorable pricing for the top of the line products.
So tier 1 is good.
Tier 1 is number 1. Yeah.
Tier 1 is number 1. Okay, great.
We're not messing with the stuff that hasn't been, rigorously tested or passed with flying colors. Any
Jen,
other?
Yeah, Jen, I had a question. On your previous slide, the Inflation Reduction Act,
Mhm.
you have there at the bottom that asterisk must meet domestic content requirements. Can you just talk a little bit about that? I'm aware of this provision, the Inflation Reduction Act, but I don't know any municipalities that have utilized this. Have any of your clients actually done this and taken advantage of this? Because I haven't heard anything about it. So I'm a little
Oh, I'm loving
wary,
the-
but also intrigued about this provision.
Yep, I'm loving the questions tonight, y'all. Thank you. There really aren't any products available right now that are domestically produced, and that's why you're not seeing it. We do have a great relationship with Q-Cells, who makes that panel I was just referencing. They do have a new facility in Georgia that is coming online, or is online, but not meeting the domestic content requirements yet. So the way we're looking at it is that in order to qualify for, so this, I'm sorry, let me back up. It's an additional 10% for domestic content, I believe. I want to fact check that later, but the way we're seeing this is
So
that
you are correct, Jen. I'm looking at something else that another consultant did for us.
Good.
And the domestic piece, so you can get up to 50% off.
Yeah.
30% is the direct pay,
That's a done deal.
which goes down to 15 if you're doing a non-tax paying or a
Mhm.
non-tax bond or loan. But if you just take out a traditional loan and it is tax, applied, then you get 30%. The extra 10 is for the domestic thing. There's another 10 for community requirements that you all may meet because Norfolk is a green community, or you may not meet it because it's pretty stringent. So
I
Jen
believe they
continue.
do not meet it.
Okay, there you
I'm
go.
pretty
Yep.
confident. And the domestic content, to go back to that question, is the way we're looking at it is it's going to take a couple of years before they're available, which is ironic, given that it's a requirement. And then there's going to be a premium to pay for them when they are available. So we're well positioned by being, members of that Amicus cooperative that I was mentioning. So we'll be ready when the products are, but they just aren't yet.
Thank you.
You bet. Anyone else?
Any other questions?
So Jen, with respect to the procurement process on this particular product for us, I know that we talked about, maybe potentially other iterations, not just the rooftop. There's a lot of hurdles to get any other iteration, so I think we're solely concentrating on especially what you've already provided as far as numbers and things of that sort. But for, us as the municipality, maybe go over what it is that we're required to do, or what are some of the options available for us as far as this procurement process?
That is a great question, but I feel like maybe that would be Justin answering it, perhaps. I don't know if it's Justin or Andy, actually.
I think we probably would wanna. I think we'd have to do an RFP, me personally, but that was one of my final questions I was gonna have. Jen, are you guys part of Power Options? Because the town is, no, are you shaking your head?
We are not part of Power Options in their current contract. I think it's every 3 years. I believe they have about 1.5 years left of their current contract. So it's possible that we could bid. We are DCAM certified, but we are not currently the provider within Power Options for solar. And so what Todd and Justin, sorry, now I'm just talking to everyone, but I believe there is a cost threshold for which things have to go to RFP, and I'm not familiar with what that number is.
So the number is $50,000 in this instance. It would have to go to RFP. I just didn't know if you had done other RFPs for other municipalities or what have you.
Yeah, I'm newer to the team. I have not personally done an RFP. We have a ton of expertise within our 500 employee company for municipalities, and I could get you some references if that were needed. I'm pretty sure we've done a lot in Keene. I don't know my New Hampshire town, so I don't want to misspeak, but I can get references if that's helpful. And we do reply to.
Well, I just know for a solar project that we just recently did that obviously we had to get town meeting approval for the town administrator, select board, et cetera, to move forward with, whatever we ultimately ended up with as far as the procurement process for that.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming that's going to be following similar situation here, but it's, basically going to have to go out to bid. You guys will have to bid on it, and hopefully we can move forward, kind of thing.
Sure.
So has that last RFP that's been issued, has that already gone to bid?
Bid done and sealed.
Okay, good.
Construction started from what I could tell online. If we're
Okay.
talking about the same one.
No, we're talking about something different. We did one, there's one next grid probably is what you're looking on. But we just did something with Select Energy, which was a PPA agreement for the police building and doing a
Ah.
carport canopy with them as well. But obviously Select is with Power Options, so that was, done through that.
Sure,
Um,
got it. Yeah, so, I mean, that was one of my questions for you all, Todd, was how are you thinking about financing this type of project and how far are you in the decision-making process? And
I was just gonna go to the back parking lot and grab some money off the tree back there, since,
No,
it's
my-
budget season, so we have no issues in the town of Norfolk, so easy peasy.
That's the case, keep driving, 'cause I got a couple.
Oh, you're muted.
I'm actually going down to the fire station to get some more off of Aaron's tree.
So Jen, I think the next steps are good, right? So if you want to go to your next step slide,
This is it.
we
Yep.
can, right, I think, okay, good. So Justin, to your question, I can work with Jen to get you some examples of RFPs if you want to see something like that. And then the RFP would go out to the street. And, if Revision's interested, they could bid on it. I think from the big picture point of view, we wanted to get you this kind of information so you knew in general terms how big the system could be, what in general terms the system would cost, what your savings in terms of kilowatt hours per year would be. And again, all this isn't just in general terms. And as part of your RFP, I would suspect that like step one in the process with the contractor that you hire would be, okay, come out here, investigate and engineer it and design it and quote it. Because I just think that, it's a little bit different in the procurement process and that, sometimes the design is not 100% done. If you wanted to go that route, GGD, our engineers on the project, could provide you a set of bid specs to go out and bid this work. But at the same time, my advocacy to clients is, it's best to have the solar company involved in the design.
Always.
Because inevitably, the engineers do something which is great. There's no issues with it. It's wonderful, but every company wants to do things a little bit differently and they have their way of doing things. And, that's just something that I would encourage if you wanted to do that, that's the way to do it. And I'm sure you've already done it because you've already put this out to bid before. So.
So,
Okay.
in terms of timeline, let's say the building was built, you're ready to pull the trigger today. Engineering goes about a week to get you a final quote and pricing, and then, a contract can be turned around in a week. Whether or not it's signed in a week by the client is another question, but, a week to a month development, I think that's, applying for permits and interconnection applications, that's another 5 to 8 months. Then a couple months for mobilization and parts delivery. Hopefully for a project like this, we wouldn't see long lead time components. The installation takes probably a week. Then we have to wait for inspection, and flipping the switch comes probably a month or two later once the utility is given the green light. So all in, maybe 10-ish months from here, from engineering to the completion. Understanding that you have that RFP process to build in there. And I will say, Revision is probably not the cheapest, but we do great work. And I think we budget in for the extra time and care it takes to install these things correctly, making sure that our crimping is tight, stuff like that. So we try to give people what we know to be true from our experience in the field. And oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, we know what it takes to build these. So hopefully by going through this process with us, there's fewer change orders in the end. So Yeah, happy to talk whenever you have questions. I'll be in touch with Ron. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to stay on and answer them, but this is the content I had planned for today.
I did just have one other question. I don't know if you showed it in a slide, and I missed it, but so if, rough numbers, we're talking $116,000 after you get all your credits and everything.
Mhm.
Is there any sort of like estimated payback time? Like
Yep.
if you're generating, oh, there you go. You had it right
I
there
don't-
and I missed it. 10 years.
10 years.
Okay.
Conservatively, when we do the full design with engineering and all that, they'll be able to refine this number, but that's a
Sure.
good ballpark number for you. Yeah.
And so 10 years, that would be, let's say it is 10 years, that would be right around when I think you showed the inverters are typically replaced
Probably
every
15 years. Like they're warranted for 12, but probably it could last 15 easily.
12 years in 1 month, maybe.
We'd come swap them out for you, like we know this is a part of the process because they just don't last as long as the panels.
So just in the, for what it's worth department, the codes are continuing to change. ASHRAE has a green building code currently. And I've worked on a project in my past life, that was compliant with the ASHRAE green building code. And that code requires that any system, geothermal, solar hot water, any system that has a 10-year or less payback is required to be implemented into the building. And so what we have been seeing recently is that a lot of these systems, the cost is coming way down. I think if this were 10 years ago and you had a 40 kilowatt system up on your roof, it would be much more expensive than $116,000. There's no question about it. And, as these things are happening, I am essentially telling clients that, once you get to that 10-year or less threshold of return on investment, I mean, think about that, right? If it's providing, would you say 25% of the load?
20-ish, yeah.
20, once this thing's paid off and you got another 40, 50, 60 years of operating this thing, even though you're refurbishing the panels, the infrastructure's there, you're saving some significant money. So, I know you all know that. I just wanted to let you know that given the track that Massachusetts has been on about getting very aggressive about energy savings, I would not be surprised if the next iteration of the code requires any 10-year payback systems are required to be implemented.
Well, thanks for having me, folks. I guess I'll pop off if I'm not need any more and happy to answer.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. y'all.
Anyone else have questions? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I don't know if we talk about it now, but if we need to talk about it at a subsequent meeting, we can. But as far as like, let's say we wanted to go to the next step, and it sounds like we would have to go through the public bidding, we'd have to do an RFP. By the sounds of it, is it something where we should be kind of figuring out, can we do that RFP and put it out on the street, or no, we need to go to town meeting first before we even issue an RFP?
I would go to town meeting first, but I think part of the process, we need to go to town meeting if we were gonna put solar panels on there. So I think that's something that we talk about and whether we consider for the May town meeting versus fall town meeting. But the town is a member of Power Options, and Power Options allows you to directly work with that consortium to do, you don't need to do an RFP and just can work with Select, or we could determine to do RFP to be competitive out there and see if there's something better for us. That's with Power Options, that group is negotiated with the state as well. So I don't know whether we have to do RFP or not. I think more is the question is town meeting. When do we want to do that? That might be a May or November town meeting.
Hey, Justin, it's Aaron.
Iron.
What's driving us to go back to the town? Because solar wasn't a part of what was approved.
Right. So I
But we
looked,
but we were always planning to be solar ready, so but the issue is that we didn't actually bid a solar panel system.
yeah, no, there wasn't ever an article. I looked at this, double check this. There wasn't ever an article just authorizing solar at this location. So for example, the police station, 2008, I'm doing off the top of my head. I think 2018, we had a warrant article to do authorization for panels at the police station. You've got to do that same process for the fire
Yeah, but
station.
that was as a separate project.
Yep. You still
Right?
have to
I mean,
get.
I guess what I'm saying is I'm wondering, I was gonna say arguing, but I'm not arguing, I'm wondering.
Yeah.
You know, we always contemplated solar as part of this project. So
So if I may.
is there, go ahead, Ron.
I know where you're going with this. So Justin, one possibility, which is actually a possibility, is to do this as a change order through the general contractor, in which case it becomes part of our project. But I think that's the separation, Aaron. You know, the separation from the AG's office would most likely be, look, if you're adding this to the scope of the fire station project and the fire station project is paying for it, then you give a proposal request to your general contractor, they give you a price and they do it, right? If it's not being done through the general contractor or as a change order to the project, then it is by all descriptions a separate project. And then that project falls under to what Justin's referring to, which is the bid laws in Massachusetts that says if you're procuring equipment more than $50,000, you got to go out to bid. I don't know if that makes
So I have
sense.
to check with bond counsel, just so you know, Ron, because when we initially put this project
Yeah.
through, bond counsel does a complete review of all the information. And so we're in the process of finalizing that bond at the moment. And they've already reviewed and approved moving forward without that solar information or solar project in there. So that
Yeah,
could
but this is-
complicate things there.
Well, understood. It's always good to check with lawyers, make sure we're doing something right. But I don't think it's any different than if we said, hey, hey, chief, is there a piece of equipment that we don't have in this project that some fire stations do? Like, you know, if there's we don't have, okay, here's a good one. We don't have a public address system in the building. If the chief came back next week and said, you know what, we need a public address system in the building, I don't know, I had never been in a position where I went to bond counsel to say, hey, we need to add a PA system that was missing from the project. So understanding, that's the way I look at it, right? I look at it as if you're adding something to the project, then it's part of the project, it's change order. And keep in mind that any change orders are subject to the percentage increases, right? So basically, you'd be paying a change order to a contractor and getting exactly the same work, but paying more, right? You'd end up paying more because it's a change order. So I'm not advocating to do this as a change order.
Yeah, but follow that logic through, Ron, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but in a perfect world, we
Mhm.
continue to do well in a contingency scenario. And let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, we end up with $200,000 left in contingency.
Yeah.
Why not turn around and spend that on the solar system that was always intended to be put on the roof of the project?
So perfect example of why I would, maybe suggest that put it out to bid, right? Because you get $200,000. You're going to get a good competitive price to get this thing installed. And like I said, you'll get the same work, same outcome, but you don't have to pay the general contractor the increase in time, right? So if we do this, the contractor.
Yeah, but then we have to go through the whole process of getting it approved.
Sure, I understand, but the good news is you're able to say, hey, we got the money. Because if you have $200,000 left, and again, I think this goes back to what Todd's saying, right? The bond counsel is going to say, well, you either give that back to the taxpayers or you spend it. So figure out a way to spend it or give it back to the taxpayer. So I think to that end, obviously it's a decision that you all need to make. I was just pointing out that when we've gone through the motions like this with other clients, it's always been, and maybe it's a simplified way of looking at it. It's always been suggested or actually told to me that if it's part of your project and it's a change order and it goes through the general contractor and it's subject to chapter 149, all the, bells and whistles. If it's not part of your project, then it falls into the procurement process. So. That's,
But both are options.
Yeah, I mean, the
I don't think this-
sorry.
Right.
I didn't mean.
I just wanted to add one thing. I don't, sometimes you get into what they call a cardinal change, where it's, completely, it's something that's completely outside the scope of what the original project was and is costly. I don't think this qualifies as being a cardinal change. So I think you're not going to run into any problems if we were to consider doing this as a change order through the general contractor.
that's right, because all the infrastructure, as Aaron was pointing out, all the infrastructure, this is solar ready. Like literally all we're missing is the solar panels and the inverters and the wiring. To
Yeah,
put it, simple. To break it down simply. Everything else is there. The space in the electric room, the conduits that run up there.
And the areas for the solar panels are actually marked on the roof
Right,
plan.
right. They're on the roof plan.
Just something to consider, that's all.
I would just say for the group, I think, I think this merits consideration, particularly with the savings and things like that. But I would just say, I would like to do our due diligence and just ask our town council just what we would do. Because I do think this is an article on town meeting to get approval for it. Then I'll just have them weigh on it and give a decision, right? I think if the committee's interested in doing this and exploring this thing, let's just ask town council. It's a pretty simple question.
or even if the article's just, hey, we're doing really well on our I'm sure there's a better way to word this, but we're doing really well on our contingency. Is everybody okay if we got $200,000 left over that we spend 150 of it to get these solar panels?
I see the premise of what Ron said, though. I've had a similar project. Yeah, you don't even have to, I'm more concerned about authorizing the solar array on that site. More so than anything, because if it's within the project, I kind of agree with Steve. I don't see it as a cardinal change. If it's within the budget, you can do that change already without going down. I care more about getting an article proving solar at that site.
Oh, see, I was coming at it from the
You're
angle.
looking at a different angle, like the cost of if we have extra amount of money, do we get town meeting approval to do that expenditure on the project? I personally don't think that's another question we talk about if we want to do that process. I don't think it's necessary because it's part of the project in that sense. If it was meant to be solar.
Mechanics of the money is not that big of a deal as far as approval as
Cutting out talking.
Yeah, you're cutting
for
out.
the utilization of those proceeds for the solar array. It's more or less like.
They
You
talk
hear me
saying-
now? You
You're
hear me
kinda
now?
choppy.
Hear it out.
Yeah, now we can hear you. Yep.
All right. So with respect to the money, it's just, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Simply asking the townspeople to say, we're gonna allocate $200,000 from the project to the solar array. Not a big deal because it's there and available. More, can we actually do the solar array on the building after the fact when it's already been approved, blah, blah, blah. I know it was set up to have it installed. We never got approval from any of the boards to actually have the array, things of that sort. So I think, going along with Justin's concern, is the town ready to approve?
That being taught there. That's more my concern. And I would just ask town council that, and then we can have that back for the board next meeting.
Yeah, I think maybe we can put it as an agenda item on the next meeting, just continue discussion on solar. We can hear back from town council.
I'll reach out to them this weekend.
Okay.
Guys, if I could just sort of fill in a little bit, when we did the Freeman School, we did the solar as an ad alternate. the good thing about it is that it was part of the scope. The bad thing is that the cost is about 30% higher than we expected. That was a little bit of the market, as well as a little bit of, let's just say a little bit of education, the contractors, was electrical contractor. So, and to give you an idea, that 50 kilowatt system was $320,000. And it was a metal roof. So, you know, it was an eye opener for me, because I know that, you know, we way overpaid for that system. So just an FYI. And I do have a lot of questions, which probably aren't part of the discussion.
Oh. Andy, I don't know if you're moving away from your mic, but you're kind of fading in and out.
I'm sorry. I do have some technical questions. I don't need to bring them up now, but you know, I can make a list and just pass them on to Justin at some point, you know, on things that we need to look at. But just, you know, for Ron and Steve's benefit, I mean, my main concern is the location of the building and the shading early morning. I mean, we lose a significant amount of production on an annual basis, and it could be like 20%. So that's something to think about. And I know Revision didn't do that, but you know, you look at the pictures I've taken, you look at just sort of the shading, and it's worth looking at real closely. So just an FYI. So, okay.
Yeah, but is that that's something that would be looked at once you actually had somebody engaged, right?
It's the chicken before the egg. You know, and you know, everybody says, yeah, I've got tons of sun in my backyard, but then again, when you start looking at, you know, the time between November and, you know, end of February, I mean, the sun is low, and if you have 60-foot trees in your backyard, you know, you get a lot of shading, and you know, we're what, 25 feet away from the edge of the tree line, and some of those trees are as high, if not higher, than the actual highest point of the building. And you know, it is facing south. That is the south direction, and that's something that you might, you know, we'd have to look at. So I mean, this is something that might be worthwhile. You know, can we ask a favor, Revision, to go out and do a sun analysis and shade analysis, you know, quickly? You know, it should be 2 hours a time, and again, you know, it's something. It's just one of those things that probably should be done to make sure that we're not getting down to a point where we're committing to doing this, and it's like, well, you know, the $9,000 a year savings is really about $7,000, you know, in electric costs. I mean, that's something, you know, that's a big chunk of the thing, and that could pay back out a couple years too. So, you know, it's the numbers that they gave are pretty good. I actually ran numbers for that same hardware, and yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, if they sharpen the pencil, that's a pretty good number. So,
okay. Yeah, I don't know. My gut is before we ask Revision to do anything else, or even if we want to ask them, I think we need to have what we want to do here. That's my opinion. Anybody else has a strong opinion on it? Otherwise, I think we can table the discussion, and then maybe next meeting pick it up if you can touch base with legal.
Yep.
Before then. So
I would say exactly what we need to do if we're interested in pursuing this.
okay. Any other discussion on solar from anyone? Couldn't hear you, Todd, but I'm going to assume you said you were good.
I am good.
They had to know because.
All right. I think that's all for discussion items listed at Steve. I don't know if you want to go back to your video.
No,
That you were going to do.
we can defer that to when we have a conversation about the furniture.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion items from anyone before we move on to action items? Okay. First action item is discuss and vote to approve the roof shingle. I'm assuming anyone that wanted to go see the roof shingle on the mock-up has had the opportunity to do so. So I'll ask for the motion, and then if we want to have some discussion after that, we certainly can. But I will ask for a motion to approve. It's pewter wood, right, Ron?
Pewter, correct, yes.
Pewter wood, okay.
Yes.
I'll ask for a
Yeah.
motion. Ask for a motion to approve the pewter wood roof shingle to be used on the project. So moved. Second. Second. All right, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone wants to have? Okay, then I'll take a roll call vote. Todd Lindmark,
Yes,
Aaron Hunt,
Aye.
Baker. Yes. Chief Kinney. Yes. Justin Casanova Davis.
Yes.
Kevin Champagne, yes. All right, we're good for the pewter wood shingle.
Thank you.
All right. Second is, I'll ask for a motion to approve the granite joint ceiling color. So,
Those limestone,
yeah, thank you. So there was black and limestone. Everyone that I heard from, preferred the limestone. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the limestone color granite joint sealant for the granite base.
so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, do a roll call vote. Todd Lindmark,
Aye,
Aaron Hunt,
I'll abstain.
Chris Baker, yes. Keith Kinney,
Yes.
Justin Casanova Davis.
Yes.
Kevin Champagne, yes, the motion passes. And then the other last action item is approval of meeting minutes. The November 8th, 2023 meeting minutes. I have no comments, so I'll ask for a motion to approve. So moved.
Second.
Do a roll call vote. Todd Lindmark,
yes, sir.
Aaron Hunt.
Aye.
Aye. Justin Casanova Davis.
Aye.
Chief Kinney.
Yes.
And so, yeah, all right, the motion passes. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. If there's any other action items from anyone?
There is.
Oh,
So, sorry, we had a meeting with the contractor today. We went through a bunch of the exterior colors. A lot of these have already been discussed. We just need to run it past you. We've already picked some of these colors. But so there's a specific gray that is for the fascia of the roof edge. And that gray metal comes in a color that is almost identical to the color that you've chosen for the paint on the building. But it's not exact. And Castagna has told us that their painter can match that exactly, right? So if we do that, I guess what I'm asking for is the leeway to tell them to go ahead and match the metal, because they got to order the metal. Like, that metal has to be ordered. Same thing with the white. There's a white roof edge metal, and then a louver white. And of course, the two colors are not exactly the same, but they're close. And what we would like to do is go ahead and tell them to use the white roof fascia, get the white louvers. And then the painter said the same thing. Once we get the color chips off to the painter, they can come up with a match for these products. And so just wondering, like, if you're okay with that, then that's what we would do. The other thing is there's a snow guard up on the roof. The snow guard, again, has a very close color to the gray with the metal edge, and we like to select that one. It actually doesn't come in many colors of gray, so our choices are limited, but it's extremely close, and you won't be able to tell from far away. Or even if you do, they're not side by side, right? These are the snow guard, the metal snow guards up in the shingle roof area. Help me out here, Steve. What else am I missing? The
Gutters
red
and
doors.
downspouts.
What's that?
Gutters and downspouts.
Yes, so the gutters and downspouts are the same thing. We're gonna match the white metal edge with the gutter and downspout unless it's at the gray portion of the building, in which case we'll match the gray from the roof edge. or as close as we can, basically. And I think that,
Ron, what do you mean patch? Are you painting, you're painting the gutters?
no, there'll be metal gutters. But the metal gutters have more options. So we can pick something that's close or matching the roof edge. All these things are pre-finished. That's why the contractor's asking for.
So
Decision.
can we get samples of all the metals?
We do, we have those. And we had them out at the site. So.
Yeah,
And then on top of that, but we would need to know what the matches are, right? And then I think we should probably ask somebody like Matt Hafner if he wants to deal with custom colors or if he would rather just have a standard white color that's a little bit different than the metal white color. In terms of
once you get
matching and matching as you go forward over time, right?
right, but once you get the match, there'll be a color formula on the can and in the submittal.
And
So-
Matt Melnerich he's been part of these meetings. Matt Hafner's gone. It's the other Matt.
Yeah,
And if I'm not mistaken, and I know from the last two meetings that we had, just the work group meetings, that time is becoming of the essence with these things, with where
Right.
if we don't start, if these don't get released or approved, we could be looking at delays.
I mean, what we're looking at doing is, that some of the products are coming in with limited choices. So we're adjusting, like Ron said, the gray paint can be adjusted. Not that it's going to be markedly different because we had the pieces out there, but the Homer painting can match that as opposed to trying to get, a custom color from a sheet metal supplier. So the intent of the shade of gray is still there, but it's not exactly the color that we may have chosen on the paint originally.
Did anybody, I know I've got to see those, and you can't, even if you hold it right up to it, there were two shades, you can't really. It's hard to tell the difference with either one.
yeah, I saw the gray one when I was on site. I think, Ron, that's the one that you showed me. It was the soft
It's a
color.
gray
and they-
soft, right? Very
They
close.
were, yeah, but I guess what are we being asked to approve?
so now that we've got the shingle picked, we've picked the paint on the doors, we've picked the paint on the rest of the building. We're asking that we know the shades of gray, we know the shade of white. Like those have been selected. And so we're gonna work within those confines to get these other pre-finished metal products approved and then matched. So it's very much like you just described, Chief Kenny and Kevin. These aren't marketably different. These are like extremely close. It's just, I want to, just tell you that, these metals, like everything's going to be exactly the same palette that we picked. It just, you'll never be able to tell. So, the design review board, when they look at the renderings, it's going to look exactly like that.
But so then why are you asking the question?
Because I'm asking the question because it's not exactly the color.
We're just
It's
trying-
not exactly the paint
So-
color that we picked.
So me personally, I don't know how I could vote on accepting colors without seeing them. So.
Okay.
My suggestion is we line up the metals and we line up the custom match paints and we take a look at them.
Can we bring samples to the next meeting and we can vote on it?
I don't know what this does to their schedule, but the answer is yes. I mean, we can, and then, having them provide custom paint color samples. We can
That's
also
gonna
ask
take
them
up
to
a
do
lot
that.
of time, unfortunately.
It's gonna take time, and this is no one's fault, right? This is no one's doing, if you will. This is a matter of, the subcontractors, like anything else in the world, right? they submit something and they say, oh yeah, and here are your color choices. And it's kind of like, we need an answer today because we, and it's just, that's just, same
I
old
guess it just
contractor.
like, I'm not sure how I would structure the motion, like, what are we approving? We're approving
To stay within the color
Well,
palette.
to stay within the color palette.
Yeah, to allow the team to make the choice on the colors, but obviously we're not going, not gonna be seeing any kind of pinks or yellows out on the building. It's nowhere near that level of change. Just allow your project team to make the decision on these colors. Because I mean, really, you don't have a lot of colors on the building. What do you got? You got gray, white, red doors, black aluminum doors.
Right, so I'm just gonna repeat something I said last month and probably the month before that, right? I mean, I've raised a concern with the mock-up and whatnot that we've never really seen the collection of colors together, right? Tonight's a perfect example that we haven't seen the colors together, and now we're being told it's not just one white and one gray, it's 3 or 4 grays and 3 or 4 whites, right? So, I mean, if the question is, we need to be comfortable with 3 or 4 grays and 3 or 4 whites, then, that's a big question. So,
All right, we'll bring the samples down to the town. We'll get them, we'll gather them all on site. And again, we're gonna have to ask that you go out to the site, take a look at it. And I apologize, you're right, we should, we'll get that done. The shingles have been approved and we'll just, we'll get them down there. And
Is that gonna impact us negatively on timeline? I mean, I know the contractors were concerned in the last 2 meetings about that, like they've been pressing us for probably the last 4 meetings about them, trying to figure out, I'm just worried. I don't want it to be on us as the owners for there to be any delay that ends up costing us money, especially when the pieces that
I'll defer to Steve and Ron on this, but it should be I would expect that it's on the contractor to plan for and coordinate submitting the colors and getting them approved. Right, so
100% it is, but as I'm trying to explain, probably not well. It's like herding cats. I don't know, maybe Steve, that's too rude of a word, but in order to have all the subcontractors submit everything all at once so that they can put something together, just never happens, right? It all comes in piecemeal. So we have gotten to a point where we have all the samples. So now what I'm saying is me, I guess, I can collect all those samples, label them, put them on some kind of board, get them down to the site so that everybody can pick this or can review this, and we can obviously make our suggestion. What the chief's talking about is all these things are becoming in piecemeal, right? So the contractor is getting a little antsy because, this is the excuses we talk about, right? Where the contractor says, well, you'll have 1 or 2 contractors that say, hey, I sent you that stuff in November. We don't have an answer yet. You don't have an answer yet because we couldn't get the shingles put on the mock-up for the building committee to go look at. And the roofer will, or not the roofer, but, the window guy or whomever will say, well, that's not my problem, And so what we've done is we've collected all the samples now. I think what Kevin saw, right, when he came down to the site was that the gray is extremely close. Like you really can't, if I hold the 2 of them separate, you can't even tell they're different colors. But if I put them together, you'll say, oh, that's a different color. But it's not even, right, very, very slight. And so I just want to make sure of that. So what we can do is we can gather up all the samples, label all the samples, get them down to the site. In fact, they're sending us that's interior, but anyway. And then we'll have them on the site and there won't be any cost, right? Because we told this to the contractor since day 1, that the completion date on this project is June 15th. Right. And this is exactly, I'll use the generator as an example, is exactly what we told them. If for whatever reason, your generator supplier can't get the generator there, then the fire station's not moving in on June 15th. right? We're not gonna take possession of a building that's not 100% done. And, you know, it's not like the students are coming to school on September 5th. It's the fire station will move when the project's done. So there won't be a cost, but the date may move. I'm not saying the date will move. I'm just saying that we need to, you know, right, in order to assist this whole project as a team, we just need to, when I get the board down there, which will be this week, when we get the board down there and everybody can see this, we just need to make an effort to just say, okay, let's go out, take a look at this and bless everything. And, you know, I think, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just the nature of the beast, right?
It is, but I guess logistically, how are we gonna accomplish getting everybody to look at this, and then under what forum are we going to either have a consensus or a vote so that we can get them the final answer? I mean, we went through a process for the shingles and the paint. And it sounds like we're gonna do the same thing for soffit metal and a couple of these other metals, but how are we gonna get everybody there? What's the process? Because it worked somewhat for the shingles, but not 100%.
Ron, Steve, what's the time frame that you can have that stuff there for the committee to take a look? I think I'm all set. I've seen it already, so I'm prepared to vote. But if there's a concern about it, if there's some time that you guys can have it prepared by the end of the week, maybe we set up a Zoom meeting next week and vote. If you really want, if it's that, I mean, I defer to the committee members who are here, but you know, I understand Aaron's concern. If there's anybody else's concern, can we just do it a meeting next week?
Yeah, I mean, we could,
If people want to hold off on voting, Aaron is one position.
well, I mean, I just don't. It sounds like we're voting on, okay.
Yeah.
Vote to approve laws that are close. Now, I saw the gray one. I agree. The gray is very close, but. I
It's
think
the
Ron
same with the
Russell-
whites. Yeah. But we'll get everything down.
I mean, I'll
Well,
just,
sure,
I guess, Steve, I'll put this question back to you. You tell us, we're available, we'll make ourselves available. You tell us what we need to do.
Well, I guess my point was, we can't wait a month for the regular meeting, so if we can, and Ron, it depends on when you can get those down there, so we can give people some notice to come out and take a look, but we really need everybody to come out and take a look. And it doesn't have to be at the same time, because I have a guy out there and we had a schedule and people came and made this somewhat appointments so that we could walk over to it. We just need to do that. And I mean, ideally, we could have a quick remote call with proper notice as an open meeting to just go over that as a single action.
Right, so
Is that,
Justin, to avoid having to post another meeting and public notice and whatever time that may take, could we vote tonight to allow an executive decision by you and Kevin after the committee gets a chance to see the colors?
Yeah, same as we did with the roofing.
yeah, I mean, the only issue is that if, let's say, I'll just use, I'm not putting you on the spot, Aaron, I'll just, as an example, you don't like the colors. So now we have one person that doesn't like the colors. Do we need to all regroup and talk about it? I think it would be easier if everyone could just, if Ron gets the colors and says they're here, everyone can go, if you want to, here's photos of them. If you can't get out to the site, you can look at these photos. And then, or go to the site and look at it. And if everyone's available next Wednesday, we just have a call at 6 o'clock. It's our only agenda item.
Yep.
Is everybody good with the colors?
I agree with that, and that's what I was thinking as well. For us posting, we have enough time to post. Like if everybody's on board with that, we'll post the agenda for next Wednesday, we'll be fine. So I agree with Kevin there.
The shingle to me was a little more cut and dry. There were only really like a couple of shingle options that I wasn't anticipating anyone really having an issue, but we run the risk that if one or two people don't like it and Justin and I then don't feel comfortable making a decision for the whole committee that now we've lost another week, we gotta schedule a meeting. So
I mean,
I'd rather just tonight, can we agree on a day, either next week or the week after, to just have a Zoom meeting? So I guess, Ron, when can the samples be down at the site?
I'll figure out how to get them there before the end of the week.
And,
And then
and,
if
and,
we, and then
and if
if we
someone
wanna,
needs to, if someone needs to look at it over the weekend, I can make those arrangements. Because I know work gets in the way.
Yeah,
and
I would
Steve, what I'm
suggest,
thinking, Steve, I'm sorry, Steve, what I'm thinking is I'm gonna put something together and have it messenger down to Doug or the chief at the site.
Yeah,
And it'll
go,
be
yeah,
a board,
go to the
you
front
know,
door.
sealed, and we'll get it down there.
I mean, Saturday may rain, but I mean, I'll go over there Sunday if we wanna take a look at it.
Mhm.
Gotta get this moving.
Okay,
And I know that, you know, we didn't have necessary everything, but it's, you know, we're into January now. And we don't really want the fingers pointing back at us that you held us up.
I think we're all on the same page. I think now is, can we meet on Wednesday at 6?
well, so if the samples are there on Friday, would everybody have an opportunity to get over to the site before Wednesday at 6 o'clock to see them if they want to see them?
I can get there, Kevin, but I'm not around Wednesday. It'd have to
Okay,
be Tuesday. It'd
but
have to be
there, you
Tuesday
know,
or the next week.
but can't Aaron submit his comments to you, Kevin, directly and not copy anybody?
yeah, and
else?
then we can talk about them as a committee.
Sure.
If Erin can't be there, Todd, are you available next Wednesday? Yes,
Yes, sir.
4 people here are available. Okay, we just
For a
need to-
small fee,
What's that?
for a small fee.
We got taken on.
So just because Justin Enosic's not on, so we're assuming that he's available, but we need to have at least 5. So yeah, Aaron, if you can get me your comments. And then let's make a meeting, a Zoom only meeting, 1 agenda item.
Yep.
Yeah, technically 2, because we have to have public comment.
Yep.
It'll be quick. Hopefully quick. So Ron, I'm traveling starting
Yep.
tomorrow, the weekend, but if you want to send Justin and I an email when it's ready.
Yep.
And we'll get it out to the committee.
Sure.
Ron, what are you sending? Is it possible that you could send it to Justin at town hall rather than to the site?
I can send it to Justin at town hall, yep.
Yeah, that might be
That
easier.
might be,
Yeah, and then, because then we don't have to, hard hats, vests, that sort of stuff to just come see it.
Yeah. Okay, just make sure you go outside to look at it in the sunlight or, at least the daylight. Because the fluorescent and the incandescent lights will change the color. But yeah, I'll send it to Justin. I'll send it to your attention at town hall. And okay,
You need to
well,
send-
I brought that up because the question was, is there anything else to bring up, right?
Okay,
Because there's more. I apologize. So building inspector has gone out to the site, and what we have in the design is that from the second level of the building, you go up a ladder and through a roof hatch and onto the main roof of the building. And that's how you get up there to maintain anything that's up there. We don't have any mechanical units up there. We have a couple of vent hoods, and obviously we have roof drains. So on the second floor, we also have the training deck off the back of the building on the south side of the building. That's a few feet down from the main level of the second floor. And the building department, because there's roof drains, there's nothing else other than roof drains on that roof. He said that the windows don't open, so he would like a door and some steps or a ramp that go from the day room kitchen area onto that low training roof, so that he doesn't have to climb a ladder from the upper roof down to the lower roof, or put a ladder up against the building and climb up on the roof to check the roof drain. So we've had discussions about this at the committee, at the working group level every Wednesday. And the contractor has come back to us with a price and basically said, just to add a door, right, to frame the opening, or actually just for the door itself, which would be a 3-foot, 7-foot exterior door, aluminum, just like all the other doors on the project, is $12,000. You would then add to that the amount to frame up the opening and, you know, seal it up, things like that, door hardware. So interestingly enough, that would be a 3-foot by 7-foot door. There would be no exit sign. This is literally just for accessing the roof from the day room / kitchen area. Because of that cost, Steve and I were talking about this, and we threw out the idea today that in the mock-up, you know, the mock-up that's off the side of the building, they're putting a door in there. Now that door is it's less than 6 feet tall. I don't know the exact height, but it's 3 feet wide. And technically, if this is not an egress door and it's not an access door, it's just, you know, basically a roof hatch. It's a glorified roof hatch, right? If you want to call it that, because that's how you would access the roof. Then technically it doesn't need to be 3 foot by 7 foot. And you already own it because they're putting it into the mock-up. So what we would do if you're interested in doing this is we would ask the contractor not to put the door in the mock-up, but to put the door in the building where the building inspector has asked for it. And then there'd be a much lesser cost, right? Now it's just a cost of framing the wall and putting the steps or ramp down to the roof. In this case, because it's a shorter door, we would line the head of the door up with the windows. And then when you're inside the building, you would just step up, right? Just like you'd get a ladder to change a light bulb, you get a little step ladder or something, or just a little step to step through that smaller door. And then we could have some stairs on the outside, which would be part of the training props that the fire department would use to be able to go over and check your roof drains. So I'm sorry, that's a long ass winded discussion about the fact that the building department has asked for something and we've come up with a way to do this in a cost-effective manner if you're entertaining the idea of doing it.
Well, Ron, you said two things here. I want to make sure I'm clear because I had mediation today, so I wasn't there at the meeting today.
Yeah.
They've asked for it, and the order was just having a ladder, right?
Yeah, so the design was to have a roof access ladder, like many buildings have roof access ladders. So the high roof is here, the low roof is here. We had, you know, told them that we're putting blocking in the wall so that we could put a roof ladder there. Rather than, that all came up because the building inspector said he didn't want to put a ladder up against the building to get up onto the, you know, this is a 1-story section of the building. But it is, you know, it's like 15 feet high or something. But, you know, the idea was you put a ladder up, and we've actually got the stainless steel plates against the roof edge. So you put the ladder against the plates, climb up the ladder, get on the roof, check the roof drains, go back down the ladder. He didn't like that idea, so we talked about putting a ladder from the roof down, which would be a regular old roof ladder. But I think when he walked the site with Steve's person, Doug, right? Doug from Vertex is out there full time. When he walked the site, he said, why don't you guys just put a door right here and some steps? So it kind of snowballed. We asked the contractor what that would possibly cost. And he came back and said, you know, it's $12,000. So we were just thinking,
Just,
all right.
just for the door and frame.
Yeah, just for the door.
Just want to be clear,
It
this
becomes
was,
like a $20,000 change.
yeah, it's not required, it's an ask.
Does the ladder meet the intention of the code?
Yeah, the ladder on
Why
the
is this a-
outside,
why is
the
it
ladder
even a
to the roof.
conversation?
The
all
ladder on
meets-
the outside isn't required either,
Right.
right? We've already added the ladder
Then
because
why
it
are we
was
gonna put a
requested.
silly looking door inside the building that someone's gonna look at and say, what the hell is that for?
So,
Yeah, I mean,
Great
just-
point.
Let's
That's
let's just line up what we know, right?
Yep.
Nothing's required.
right,
We added the ladder because requested. Now that we've added the ladder, they've asked for a door, right?
Well,
So-
we haven't added the ladder yet. We were gonna put blocking in for a future ladder and then we considered putting the ladder in, but we haven't priced that yet. There's no ladder that goes from the high roof to this particular low roof. But we
Yeah,
were
we
talking
voted
about
on
that.
adding the ladder, didn't we?
Yeah, we
we
did
did.
talk about
Yeah.
that.
So we voted to add the ladder, right? And then it changed, and now they want a door, right? And none of which is required, and now we're starting to add costs to the project. So,
How often do
what-
these
what are
drains
our-
need to get access?
or what are our options? We're adding costs to the project so that someone can go look at a roof drain?
Yeah. Well, so let me say this, when it came up during discussions of, yeah, and Steve, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but when this came up during the discussions, the chief also had said, yeah, well, if we're training out there and everything else and Bob wants the door, then, why don't we get the door? And then my thinking was, okay, this is another example of you put a door in a building. It's for maintenance only or for fire department training only. And then an ADA assessor comes out and does a townwide ADA assessment and says, oh, you don't have a ramp to go down there. And then, the roof is sized so that if somebody saw this as like a recreational roof, you've got more than 50 people on the roof. So, because it's so big, the area for the training. And so, if that's the case, the door needs to swing in. So there's a couple of things that we've been noodling through while waiting for the contractor to get a price, right? As we waited for the contractor to get a price, we've figured out all this other stuff. But the big picture is, with all this other stuff, if we're starting with a $12,000 door, and then they have to add in all the costs to do all the framing, and then the cost to put the ramp down there or the stairs, and then, we're gonna need to put more pavers on the roof because now people are actually going down there. Everything's starting to snowball, and we're just like, well, let's just at least get the door for free. Because we have the door. Like the door, you've paid for the door. When that mock-up is done, they're gonna throw all that in the dumpster. Right?
Yeah. So
So-
before we go and continue to add costs to the project and spiral it, I mean, I think we've got to go back to the building inspector and say, look, these costs are spiraling for something that's not required by code. And see if we can't negotiate something else.
Well, I think the negotiation would be what we're talking about, because this wouldn't be a 3x7 door. This would be a little door, right? And you have to step up and over it and through it.
I think they told me the height was 5'9",
Right. The height is like 5'9", but the width is still 3 feet.
3 feet.
Um,
yeah.
Right, but
And
what
then-
we haven't done is gone back. I mean, presumably, the inspector suggested this because he thought it would be the small dollars. It's not small dollars, it's big dollars. If we go back to the building inspector and suggest that this isn't a simple ad, it's snowballing, and the committee has expressed, the building committee has expressed concern. Is this something we can talk about or not?
Yeah, I think that's a good approach. What if we do this? What if we, like, if you as a committee agree to use the door that you've already purchased, right? It's already coming. If I'm sorry.
I don't think we're gonna vote on it tonight. Ron, I think you can
No,
offer
you
that.
don't- Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't have to
I think-
vote. I didn't, vote's a bad word.
Yeah,
Um, if you give us permission to consider that, what we can do, Steve and I, is we can say, we're gonna take the door that's coming in February. We want the contractor to price up, what is it gonna cost to frame the opening? Put that door in that location as an in-place mock-up, so we can check it all out, just like we would have on the other real mock-up. And then we just put in a simple little set of steps, or we don't even put the steps in, but just price that up. So we can then come back to you next week when we're talking about exterior colors and say, this is the price to do what the building inspector asked using the door that we have on hand. You may say, oh, okay, well, that's a reasonable price, right? Because we got rid of the 25, the $12,000 just for the
But there's
door.
a presumption in there that the building inspector will accept the smaller door.
Well, that's just it. Now we're
That's
able to say, this is what the building committee has
Right.
reviewed. It's a smaller
So
door.
if we're gonna price it, why not price a full-size door?
Yeah, I'm with Aaron on that. Isn't it gonna look kind of strange just having this door? I mean,
It will,
I prefer it cheap, you know.
but I was
probably
trying to
would.
do it on the cheap.
Why don't we just keep it simple, honestly? Let's have a conversation with Bob. I'll hop on the call with you guys and just go from there.
I'd say,
I don't think we're
look
gonna
at-
have the door.
Yeah, look, it's $15,000, whatever it's gonna be, all in. I mean, I think we
That's
need to
just
get
for the
the,
door, right? That's just for the door.
That's
That's
just the
just a
door.
door.
It's probably gonna be 20-something thousand dollars.
Twenty,
yeah, so I think,
Markup and everything.
I think you gotta go to Bob and say, look, to put a door in, it's gonna be $20,000. We can put in a ladder for X.
Yeah, that's what I care about. Let's get what the ladder price is. Let's just have a quick conversation with Bob and go from
All
there.
right, we can
I
do that.
think that's the simple.
I don't even know.
You already did that, Steve?
To do.
No, I said, we can do that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do
I mean,
that.
we just found out the 12,000, just yesterday.
I just talked about tomorrow, and if I tell him that, he'll probably be like, oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think that's the simple way.
Yeah, because then it's might go away completely.
Yeah.
So I think we have, yeah. Okay,
Okay.
All right,
All right, well,
thanks.
thank you. I just needed to.
what
bring
else, what else, Ron?
We've gotten to that point. I'm afraid to bring anything else up, so I think what Steve said earlier, the good news is we met with Delvis and the price is continuing to come down, so there.
Yes.
That's all I got.
And on a good note.
Yeah.
I'll ask for a motion to adjourn then.
Second.
So move.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Donovan Mark,
Hi,
Aaron Hunt,
All right.
Chris Baker, Steve Kinney,
Aye.
Justin Casanova Davis,
Aye.
Kevin Champagne, aye. All right. We'll talk to you on Wednesday. Aaron,
All right.
just give me your thoughts.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Good night.
good night.
All right, see you.